We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant guilty of murder as charged in the indictment. No outbursts.
Now, from behind, that looks like a woman there who was just convicted of murder. How do you feel about that? You're probably imagining what it's like for her to have her life taken away and put in prison. Are you putting yourself in her position? Are you thinking how miserable she would be? That's a cop. And maybe that's the reason they're not showing the person's face. But what if this person turned around and it was some hippie guy, maybe throwing a mustache? Then how would you feel? Does he make you think of that guy who you used to live down the street from, banged on the drums all day?
I have never in my life seen a white judge come down and hug a black defendant, a black male defendant.
Her testimony during the trial riveted America.
Innocent person.
Her lawyers argued it was a tragic mistake.
Amber Guyger, the former Dallas police officer who shot and killed Botham Jean in his own apartment, has been sentenced.
She was found guilty of killing the 26-year-old church-going accountant in his own apartment after she entered it thinking it was her own.
She was incredibly careless about it, about how she didn't help enough as he's bleeding out, etc.
You've probably heard this story. A lot of people are talking about it. Well, I've got a lot to talk about too. And a lot of it is stuff no one else is saying. Pretty disturbing. It's ironic. They tend to be saying that the reason this killer got it so easy is because she's white. White privilege. That is a thing. But I think they're missing something even bigger. A bigger factor in why she got off easy. She. So that's the conviction. Now, before we get to the sentencing, I just want to say that what I think people are missing is, in the same way that people see white people as better, people see women as better, and in the wiring, our very wiring, we have an instinct to protect women. This is often called benevolent sexism. And it's funny that women complain about this. Well, they might get some negative effects from it. Most is positive. They get a lot of benefit. But what I'm so bothered by isn't that women have it easier. It's not like I want to see women suffer. I don't want to see anyone really suffer. I'm an ethical vegan. But people have to be punished when they do something bad. Otherwise, you set this precedent that anyone can do what they want. It just makes people worse. And this has bothered me ever since I realized how all of humanity is like this, that they have this view of women as innocent victims, kind of like children, and people tend to think of women as having no agency for themselves, meaning that they're not responsible for anything bad they do, as if they're only reacting to a bad world run by men. Well, men live in the same world. My main problem with this isn't that women have it easier, it's that men have it harder. People view men the opposite. They view them as having all the agency. They're responsible for everything because they're men, because they're bad monsters. Now, this has bothered me ever since I came to this realization that this is really how the mind works. And I know this for a fact because I feel it myself. I feel it in my own wiring. We don't want to see women suffering.
I would want to hurt an innocent person.
We want to care for them. We're about to get to the sentencing here and the hug fest and exactly what punishment they give her. But I want to show you this small clip on Fox News where we see a guy saying he thinks the murder charge was over the top and that it will be lowered.
Not everyone thinks the verdict will stand.
This is probably a defective verdict, meaning defense counsel will ask the court to reduce the verdict from murder to aggravated manslaughter.
So now that we know that the charge wasn't lowered, because it shouldn't be, that's more evidence right there that that guy was technically wrong, but emotionally, he was feeling that she's getting it too hard.
We, the jury, find unanimously that the defendant did not cause the death of Botham Jean while under the immediate influence of sudden passion arising from an adequate cause, and assess the defendant's punishment at 10 years imprisonment.
Prosecutors had asked for a minimum of 28 years. I'm going to say, unfortunately, she only got 10 years in prison.
Now, under the same circumstances, if she was a man, what do you think she would have gotten as a sentence? Around the same amount? Sure.
No, they would have gotten life, and you know it.
Of course.
You know it.
Definitely.
If you truly are sorry, I know I can speak for myself. I forgive you. And I know if you go to God and ask him, he will forgive you. But I love you just like anyone else. I personally want the best for you. I don't know if this is possible, but can I give her a hug, please? Please?
Yes.
Okay, as for the brother, I'm not going to say anything about him because he can feel how he wants.
Cock.
And also, forgiveness is a good thing, to a degree, of course, but people still need to be punished. Oh, and I forgot to mention, it appears that somewhere in this trial it was decided that she wasn't making a mistake. She didn't go into the wrong apartment by accident, and she is racist. You may have heard she has written many racist texts. See, people want to defend her. Do you see that? We're so quick to look at a man as bad and guilty, but when it's a woman, we don't want to believe it. So forgiveness. Psychologists talk about the value of forgiveness. Wayne Dyer, someone I respect and watched a lot. If he feels like doing that, that's fine. But the hug, see, that could have been propaganda. It's possible he did that so people could see it. I'll leave that for you to talk about in the comments. But when I first saw this hug, or heard about this, I instantly knew what was going on here. But killers don't get hugs unless they're female, then it's different. But when I heard about the judge, that was just too crazy. And I knew I had a video here. Here's the clip.
I'm going to go to video G4 because this is the judge, Tammy Kemp, and just pay close attention to how she treats the situation. G4.
I got to bring some more home. This is the one I do every day.
All right.
So here we go again. I have never in my life seen a white judge come down and hug a black defendant, a black male defendant, etc.
So this doesn't happen. This is just wrong. Judges are supposed to be impartial. This is just too obvious what's going on here. This shows you that the problem here isn't so much about race. These people are black. It's about the fact that she's female. And also another thing is religion throughout this courtroom here. And another thing, well, let's let Jank say something about it, because he had something to say that I never heard of before.
Some folks in this country, particularly African Americans, culturally were taught a form of Christianity where they were constantly forgiving transgressions against them. I don't think that was an accident. I think the white power structure in the South back in the day taught them, no, you're not going to get anything in this life. Everything's in the afterlife, and you're supposed to bow your head, and you're supposed to forgive me for all the transgressions I'm doing against you.
We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant Amber Guyger guilty of murder as charged in the indictment. No outburst.
You could hear the gaffes there inside the courtroom.
Geiger took a deep breath and wiped away a tear. A court officer did her best to comfort Geiger as she stroked her hair. The family of Botham Jean, the victim, expressed relief after the verdict. Her family remained in their seats looking shell-shocked. Geiger could be facing life in prison.
But she will be out in 5 years maximum.
Her testimony during the trial riveted America.
No police officer ever would want to hurt an innocent person.
But cops screw up innocent lives all the time. They do not care. Okay, I thought I was done here, but I was just daydreaming, thinking about all this stuff. And I thought about something that happened to me once. And this is a perfect place to put this. I was about 14 or 15, possibly 16. But I'm kind of a small person, so. And I was out with my friends. They're troublemakers. We were walking by a supermarket, and I guess they said something, did something that upset these two big guys. And my friends were ahead of me, so I was the closest one to them walking by at the end there, and so they grabbed me. One of them did, grabbed me by the shirt and lifted it up even. And they were telling me to call my friends over. Of course, that didn't work. Anyway, nothing happened, and they ended up letting me go after a while. But this was scary, because there was nothing I could do, and I didn't know what they were going to do. But during that time, right in front of the store, right by the door, where customers were walking by, and I would look at the customers, and I was looking them in the eye, probably looking for somebody to do something, and I got eye contact, which means they were looking at my face, and they could see the panic and fear in my face. But no one did anything. Could you imagine anybody grabbing a 15-year-old girl out in public? People wouldn't do that. And if anybody did, they'd have their ass kicked in a matter of seconds.
And the judge laughed and no, you still got to be here. You can't get out of it, etc. And at the end of the day, he let her out. We're crushing poor and middle class people every day, day in, day out. And Geiger, she gets convicted, but even so, hugs afterwards, hugs. Did anybody hug this kid as he was going to jail for 10 days? Was there all this talk of forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness? No, disposable, right?
Right. Yeah.
And the thing that really gets me is for the rest of his life. Already people come in with stereotypes. He's already at a disadvantage in that way. And then they see, oh, he had to check off that he went to jail. Then he's got to explain to them how absurd it is. Then they're not going to believe him. Right. Oh, really? You went to jail for 10 days because you didn't show up for jury duty? He's triply screwed.
You like where I put the microphone? Changes the meaning.
If you're a person of color, you don't just get to make a basic human error. Just like you don't get to just be a human who is fallible for a second, you know? It's like the moment that you make the smallest mistake, it's just handcuffs, the worst possible thing they can throw on you. And that's it, you know?
And super last thing, guys. If you're white in this country and you hear minority and you turn off your brain, no, I don't believe it, I don't believe it, they treat everybody the same. Look, you don't get it. Yes, minorities have it worse. But if you're poor or middle class, you're in the same boat as us. You might be in a different part of the boat, but we're in the same boat.
Well, he came close, acknowledging that, just about everybody is repressed. Everyone who's not rich, well off. But even he still tends to focus on race, not recognizing that white men are also treated unfairly by the courts. Just look at divorce court and you'll see the gender bias. Courts are actually famous for this. It's just that people close their eyes to it. It's their wiring that closes their eyes.